On December 22, 2014, the body of little Carol Seidler, just 7 years old, was found inside her toy box in a room at the back of her own house. The discovery shocked the city of Tubarão in Brazil. In the following days, investigations pointed to the girl's mother, Silvana Seidler, as the main suspect in the crime, whose motivation was revenge. Silvana Seidler was born on October 13, 1966, in Capão da Canoa, a city located in Brazil. She spent most of her childhood and adolescence in Capão da Canoa, and then moved to Tubarão. The city's main economic activity is commerce and agriculture, and is considered a very quiet and safe city. Silvana was a businesswoman, and at the time of the events she was married to a man called Gilson, who worked as a carpenter. She was on her third marriage and really wanted to have a child with Gilson, as the man did not yet have children. Silvana, in turn, had a son from one of her previous marriages. He was a boy with Down syndrome, and therefore needed special care. Silvana was 40 years old when she became pregnant for the second time. She gave birth to a healthy baby girl who she named Carol. Carol was described as a very happy, obedient, communicative, and spontaneous girl. She lived in a seemingly healthy and loving home. People close to Silvana considered her a very exemplary mother. According to reports, she was very involved in her daughter's life and also overprotective. In an interview, Gilson even said that sometimes he had to get Silvana's attention because she couldn't be firm with her daughter when necessary. Carol, like every girl her age, sometimes did something wrong, like breaking something, and Silvana didn't reprimand her. In 2014, Silvana and Gilson separated. The reasons that led to the couple's separation are not known for sure, but according to Gilson, the decision to end the marriage came from Silvana. However, according to Gilson, a few months after the divorce, Silvana sought him out with the intention of resuming the marriage. She reportedly said she was sorry and wanted him back in her life. But at that point, Gilson was no longer interested in getting back together with Silvana, especially because he was already in another relationship. Still in 2014, more specifically on December 22nd, a Monday, the news emerged that Silvana and her daughter Carol had suffered a car accident on a highway. The accident was not serious, and both mother and daughter only suffered bruises. Witnesses reported that the car Silvana was driving entered the opposite direction of the road, which caused the accident. The car ended up crashing into a truck. The truck driver told officers that it appeared to him that the woman simply threw her car into the vehicle he was driving. He said everything happened very quickly, and he didn't even have time to react and try to avoid the accident. Silvana's car was hit diagonally, and luckily, no one was seriously injured. Rubem Teston, the police officer responsible for the police report regarding this accident, and who would later also be responsible for the case that would happen, said that everything was very strange. According to him, the evidence led to the belief that Silvana had caused the accident on purpose by throwing her car in the direction of the truck that was coming in the opposite direction of the road. After this incident, Carol's paternal grandparents and father contacted Silvana to see if everything was okay. They only found out about the accident through the local press, who wrote a story about it and broadcast it a few hours later. Silvana never called them to inform them about what had happened. When they contacted Silvana, the woman said that Carol was fine and that she was playing with her tablet. About 2 hours later in the afternoon, the girl's paternal grandparents got in touch again, while Silvana said that Carol was sleeping. This, however, seemed strange to the grandparents, as they knew that the girl was not used to sleeping in the afternoon. Shortly afterwards, Gilson, Carol's father, went to Silvana's house to check on his daughter. When he got there, he was faced with the news that the girl had disappeared. After that, family members began searching for Carol. They did a quick search of the neighborhood and surrounding areas, but found no trace of the girl. Both Carol's father, grandparents, and other family members were desperate. But in the midst of this despair, they realized that Silvana was acting very strangely. According to Neide Caligari, Carol's paternal grandmother, when she arrived at Silvana's house with the rest of her family, Silvana was washing clothes as if nothing had happened. This attitude was very strange for a mother whose daughter had just disappeared. Furthermore, Silvana locked her daughter's room, and when one of the relatives tried to enter the room, Silvana said that there was nothing to be seen there. Carol's grandmother also tried to enter a room at the back of Silvana's house, but Silvana wouldn't let her and said that that room hadn't been used for years and that there was no point looking for the girl there. After carrying out a small search and finding no trace of Carol, as previously mentioned, the family decided to inform the authorities and file a missing persons report. Soon after, authorities issued an alert and all police vehicles in the region were informed about Carol's disappearance. From that point on, several police officers were committed to discovering the girl's whereabouts. Silvana accompanied her ex-husband throughout the process of filing her daughter's missing person report. In addition to them, an uncle and 2 friends were also present. During the searches carried out by the authorities, Silvana was called to the police station to give a statement. According to the delegate responsible, during this statement, it was noticed that the woman had marks on her neck, something that generated some suspicion among investigators. Even during this statement, Silvana became very nervous and wanted to leave the police station, refusing to continue speaking. The police chief said that the woman had a completely unusual attitude when reporting what happened. She contradicted herself several times, and both the police chief and the other police officers who were present during this statement found the story told by the woman strange. However, the police chief thought that the woman's behavior was a result of the trauma she was experiencing due to her daughter being missing. Some people go into such a deep state of shock that they begin to behave in a way that is not compatible with the situation. The police thought that perhaps this was Silvana's case. Furthermore, Silvana had always been described by people close to her as an excellent mother, so until that moment, there was no reason to suspect her. In her statement, Silvana told the police that she was sleeping at home, and when she woke up in the late afternoon, she realized that her daughter was no longer there. Upon leaving the police station, images from security cameras captured the moment when Silvana tried to leave the parking lot in her car. However, soon after, she is stopped by her own brother. Silvana told her brother that she was going to look for Carol. The brother, for some reason, found this strange and did not allow Silvana to leave the place. Silvana then returned to the police station and a few minutes later left the place on foot, without taking any personal belongings. This was the last time Silvana was seen. As the investigations progressed, the police and the family began to suspect Silvana. There are a few hypotheses for what happened from that point on. Some sources say that, on the way to the police station, Carol's father, Gilson, suspected Silvana's behavior. So when he arrived at the police station, he asked some police officers to go to his ex-wife's house so they could take a closer look at the place. Another theory says that the police only went to Silvana's house after realizing that she had left the police station and disappeared. The girl had suffocation marks on her neck, and there were clothes on her clearly designed to hide her. The body was precisely in the locked room that Silvana prevented Carol's paternal grandmother from entering. The keys to the room were outside, which ruled out the hypothesis that perhaps the girl had entered the place to play and hide, and due to some accident, ended up suffocating. According to the police, when the grandmother called to try to speak to her granddaughter after the car accident and found out that she was sleeping, Carol was actually already lifeless. In the first call, Silvana had said that her daughter was playing with her tablet. However, it was later proven that the girl's tablet was at her maternal grandmother's house, and there was no way she could have been using the device at that time. The police also found a note left by Silvana in the house that said, "You don't help me at all. This is your Christmas present." Carol Seidler was buried on Christmas Eve in a cemetery in the city of Tubarão. She was only 7 years old, and the crime outraged everyone in the city. The farewell ceremony was marked by commotion from family, friends, and family acquaintances. For the authorities, the note left by Silvana at the house was directed to Gilson. Authorities also believe that Silvana committed the crime to take revenge on her ex-husband, who did not want to remarry her. As a result, Silvana became the main suspect in the crime, and an arrest warrant was issued for her. The police also issued a wanted alert, but somehow, by then, Silvana had already disappeared without a trace. While authorities tried to discover Silvana's whereabouts, investigations to better understand the dynamics of the crime continued. The fact is that that night, around 2 hours after Silvana's statement, the police officers went to her residence and looked for Carol in every room. During the search for the girl, the police were approached by an acquaintance of Silvana. According to investigators, this acquaintance stated that Silvana had told him that she had done something very wrong. This man's statement made the police officers even more suspicious. At the house, police noticed that the place looked messy, but not to the point where it looked like a break-in had taken place. The doors and windows were not broken, nor did they show signs of forced entry. The police officers then decided to inspect the house to look for evidence that would help find the girl. But as soon as they entered the room at the back of Silvana's house, they came across Carol's body in a cardboard box where her toys were kept. As I mentioned previously, the main hypothesis for the motivation of the crime was revenge. However, other hypotheses were raised. One was that Silvana had had a psychotic break, the other was that she was very depressed, and the other was that she had planned everything. Remembering that hours before Silvana took her daughter's life in her home, she suffered an accident whose evidence led us to believe that she caused it on purpose. This leads us to believe that Silvana not only intended to take her daughter's life, but also intended to take her own life. Furthermore, when Silvana gave a statement at the police station, the police noticed that she had marks on her neck. I talked about this previously, and the police theorized that these marks came from Silvana's attempt to take her own life with a rope or thread. It is likely that after taking Carol's life, Silvana tried to take her own life but was unable to do so or simply gave up. Silvana disappeared without a trace, and there are two hypotheses as to what could have happened to her. The first is that Silvana went to some very remote place and took her own life. This place would have to be very isolated because to this day her body has not been found, if she really did this, of course. The second hypothesis, which is the most accepted among authorities and people following the case, is that Silvana fled Brazil. It is not known for sure which country she went to, but it is believed that she started her life again somewhere else. Following this hypothesis, some people believe that Silvana's family knows where she is, but they don't tell anyone in order to protect her. Remembering that this is just a hypothesis, there is no evidence that her family really knows her whereabouts. In 2015, a student named Janine contacted the federal police department saying that she had seen a person very similar to Silvana. According to Janine, she was returning from her trip when she passed through the city of Santa Cruz de la Sierra in Bolivia. Janine said she saw the supposed Silvana on the same bus she was traveling on. According to Janine, Silvana would have black hair and would have gained weight, weighing around 198 pounds. Janine also said that when they both got off the bus, Silvana stood next to her and asked if they could share a taxi, while Janine accepted. However, when they arrived at the border of the city of Corumbá, which is on the border between Bolivia and the state of Mato Grosso do Sul in Brazil, the supposed Silvana got off and did not continue her journey, while Janine continued her journey to the city. Thus, the supposed Silvana remained in Bolivia and Janine went to Brazil. A reporting team approached Janine for more information. Janine told reporters that the alleged Silvana spoke to her and said her name was Aline and that she was studying medicine in Bolivia. Something that is common, as many Brazilians go to Bolivia to study medicine, as the cost of college in the neighboring country is much cheaper than in Brazil. Janine also told reporters that the alleged Silvana told her that she lived in Santa Cruz de la Sierra, and Janine noticed that the woman was traveling with a small suitcase. At the time, the police officer in charge, Rubem Teston, even said that the information would be investigated. Nevertheless, I didn't find any further updates on this. Carol Seidler was indicted for taking her daughter's life and hiding her corpse. Currently, her name is included on the wanted list by Interpol and also by the Brazilian Federal Police. According to the latest information, investigations into the case are being kept confidential, so it is not possible to know how the police are progressing. The fact is that the crime occurred almost 10 years ago, and no promising information regarding Silvana's whereabouts has been released. After years, Carol's absence is still felt by her family, who get emotional whenever they remember the case. The girl's grandmother said she misses her very much, while her father said she was a perfect little girl. Interpol is still after Silvana, and if you have any information about this woman, contact the authorities.